Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and I am still alive despite my ceiling's best attempt to murder me and my family. But with that murder news out of the way, let's jump into some Path of Exile news, which today is focused on the question, will Harvest become core Path of Exile content? And the too long didn't watch version answer is not immediately. Alright, that being said, let's jump into all of the announcement in its details. There are 5 weeks left in Harvest, which means things are starting to get closer to the launch of our 3.12 expansion in September. In the meantime, you may be wondering what the future of Harvest looks like. We're ready to share our plans. In short, Harvest will not immediately become a core gameplay mechanic, but may be reintroduced in the future. So those of you who are around back during Bestiary League, this is a similar style approach, something that they wanted to keep around, but it wasn't necessarily going to be immediately implemented. I believe, if memory serves me correct, this was also true for Incursion as well. Continuing on with today's announcement. When we designed Harvest, we wanted to experiment with a more deterministic crafting system that would enable players to access powerful items earlier in their character progression. In this sense, we feel that the crafting system has been very successful. However, at the top end of gameplay, Harvest has made it too easy to gain very powerful items that previously required a lot more work and investment to acquire. This was acceptable for a temporary challenge league, but poses problems for the long-term health of Path of Exile's item economy if allowed to remain in its current state. As such, Harvest would require a significant amount of rebalancing in order to achieve a healthy level of power for the core game. We would be reassessing the crafting mechanics to determine how many of them we're willing to keep and how much of the remaining crafting would need to be rebalanced. The standard method of adding mechanics to core gameplay where they gain a 10% chance to appear in maps also doesn't really work for Harvest, as it would mean you would only make growth progress in your Sacred Grove every 10 maps, which would be dissatisfying and slow. We plan to look at an alternate method of providing access to the Harvest mechanic that isn't strictly reliant on RNG, but implementing something like this will take a fair amount of time and therefore not be immediate. The Harvest mechanic also creates some database issues in terms of the amount of data being stored. Yeah, all the players who have got horticultural stations like stashed up in their various stash tabs and just have got tons of them stored up, I can see how that is a massive amount of a problem for data storage. This is a non-trivial technical problem, so that's just a long way of saying this is a very big problem, at least technically speaking, and we would need to resolve before allowing it to exist in the long term. All these changes are too time-consuming to implement immediately. We would like Harvest to be core in the future, but we are not yet sure of what that would look like. In summary, if you're enjoying Harvest in its current form, be sure to take advantage of it while you can. All right, so that settles the debate. Well, it really doesn't settle the debate. We can still have the debate whether or not Harvest is good for the game or bad for the game, or whether or not in the long term exactly how it would be implemented out. We can all agree or disagree with this particular statement from Grinding Gear Games. We're free to do that. That being said, Grinding Gear Games has pretty much sealed the deal on this particular league and said it's not coming core for the 3.12 cycle. Maybe it might go core at the earliest point in time then, just by simple deduction in 3.13, but based on the amount of work that it would take, it might actually take a serious amount of the team in order to rebalance this, which would mean either pulling resources from 3.13's development or potentially pulling resources from POE 2's development, which I don't think any of us want that. So this is going to be a very, very interesting process to see how Harvest is handled moving forward. It's very clear from a design perspective that Grinding Gear Games wants Harvest to go forward in some capacity in the core game, just not at the power level that it's at presently. Feel free to drop us a comment down below with your own thoughts about this particular style of approach with Harvest, essentially saying it's not going core presently, but it might in the future. Does that frustrate you? Would you rather they simply said, hey, Harvest is done, it's not going core, and it's going to go legacy, and then maybe later on down the road they resurrect it? Are you okay with this style of communication? In general, I think this is great communication. It's saying, look, we tried something, and maybe it was way too powerful, way too strong for what we originally intended it to be, and so therefore we let it be for that temp league, and we'll see what it does in the future. But feel free to disagree with me down below in the comments, and as always, I hope today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you, and I hope your ceiling doesn't drop for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.